What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Small Lake City Podcast. I am your host, Eric Nilsson, and welcome to episode 6. Today's guest, her name is Corinne Benoit, and she is the Yelp Community Manager for Salt Lake City, Utah. And in her role, she really does have a really interesting perspective of Salt Lake, working as boots on the ground with a lot of the business owners, entrepreneurs, restaurateurs, to help them grow their businesses, and a partner to bring her Yelp community to them and really help support them and make them feel heard in the community. So she has a really interesting perspective on what is currently going on, sees a lot of the data and up and coming trends. So really interesting person to share her story of how she got here from Vermont, the things she's seeing, some of her recommendations of what's going on, and kind of what we should expect in moving forward. So really excited for y'all to listen to this one. And yeah, let's hear from Corinne. So super stoked. I'm actually really excited for this one because
me too.
So much of the people that I've talked to have come from either my friends, acquaintances, or kind of from that network. But this one I love because you saw either a reel or a TikTok.
I saw you on TikTok.
It's so weird to be the receiver of that sentence. And
But it was like there was like no likes yet. Like you came up, I literally opened my TikTok and you were the first video, and I was like, this doesn't even have any likes or any comments.
What the
Like
hell's this algorithm
you
doing?
had just posted it, and I was like, okay, this is so creepy. I went to your Instagram, you had like 24 followers.
Yeah.
I was like, whatever, I'm gonna shoot my shot. Sent you a DM, I think.
Oh yeah,
that night.
Yeah, because I remember like if you have a business Instagram account, there's like
It
primary,
goes- yeah.
general, and like kind of just
like spam or
yeah,
requests or
it's like
something.
requests. That's
yeah.
it. And I saw that I had 2 requests, and one of them was like one of those spam bots of
Yeah.
like, we can get you 5 million followers,
Yeah.
and the other was like, hey, by the way, I work for Yelp. This is what I do. I think this would be interesting. And at first I was like, well, that's kind of cool to get some attention from something like that.
Yeah.
But then as I kind of ruminated on it, I was like, wait a minute, this is a very unique perspective of all of this.
Yeah.
And so I was so glad and so excited that you did, because I think it's going to be a really good conversation. I'm so excited to sit down with you.
For sure. Me too.
Oh my God. So yeah, super excited. So we have Corinne Benoit talking about her experience here. So for those who don't know, she is the community manager for Yelp in Salt Lake. Gets to see how everything's trending, what we are liking, what are we disliking, getting to know all of the fun small business owners, and understanding so much more of what goes on between it all, and supporting them in their growth and their business. And it's even more interesting because when I think of someone like you who's so hyper focused on a geography, I could see myself doing that for Salt Lake, because it's my hometown, but you're not even you're from Vermont.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've been in Salt Lake. Oh my gosh. I moved here in 2016. 2016. So 7 years?
Dang.
Is that 7 years?
So what was your history with Utah before sending it all the way over? Did you grow up coming here?
No,
Just
I
nothing?
had never been here before. Literally had never been here before. I was born in California, grew up in Vermont, moved to Austin, Texas after I graduated, after I did a cross-country road trip from Vermont to California. And then I fell in love with Austin, Texas. I don't know if you've been there before.
Oh
my gosh.
In April.
Oh my gosh. I love it there so much. And I was like, I feel really drawn to this place. I was with my boyfriend at the time, and he had family there, and it just made sense for us to kind of move our lives there. And then after a couple years, I was like, this is too big for me. This is not my vibe anymore. And it's a really beautiful place, but it was really hard because, and I feel like we talked about this when we first talked, but when I was living there, so many people were also finding that charm, and it wasn't the same city anymore. And Sweet Green was replacing these mom and pop shops, and all these businesses that made Austin were getting pushed out by Lululemon and, bigger brands. And so I was like, this isn't my place anymore. And I had some friends who lived in Salt Lake City, and I reached out to them. I was able to find a job that I applied for. I got it. I reached out to them. I was like, can you help me find an apartment? And they were like, sure. They helped me find my apartment. And then I moved here sight unseen. I was like, I hope I like it. I just uprooted my whole life from
Seriously?
Austin, and I've been here ever since. So
when you were in Vermont, was this after college when you moved to Austin, or what was going on in your life at that point?
Yeah. So I graduated from college, and I actually had a job lined up in Vermont.
Okay.
And so I was like, I'm just going to when am I ever going to have this opportunity again to take some time off. I used like all my graduation money and like money I had saved up for my job and went on this cross country road trip to California. And then we were in Austin and I was like, I love it here. I don't think I want to go back to Vermont because I love Vermont and I miss it. But you've been there before. It's very small. It just wasn't what I was looking for anymore.
Totally. And especially if you're from there, like,
yeah.
And I had like similar sentiments around that same time of like my life where I grew up in Salt Lake. I had experiences in other cities. I mean, I spent a couple years in Washington. I interned in, actually that's part of how I knew Austin is I did a typical Utah fashion, did summer sales where I was half in Dallas, half in Austin.
With Vivint.
Yes, with Vivint, ironically. And so I had like these experiences with like bigger cities, go to intern in DC, I swear there's somewhere else, but I can't think of it right now. But like, I mean, traveled enough where I was like, we're getting out of here. We're going to the bigger place.
Yes.
Grass is greener.
And
opportunities.
It's not always greener.
Exactly. And it's so, because like with Austin, so I was there, what year is that? It was 2013. And then when I went back, this year was the first time I'd actually been there, like to go there.
Yeah.
And I totally see what you mean. Like all of these kind of chains started coming.
So different.
And it sucks like when you see that because like the culture slowly just starts to get sucked out of it.
Oh my God. It was crazy. And so I lived there in 2014. So we just barely missed each other there. But I went back for the Formula One race actually a couple years ago. And Congress Street, which is the main street, like Lucy in Disguise with Diamonds, which is like this funny costume shop that's like literally one of the symbols of Austin, was getting taken down, and all these like, you know, concert halls and stuff that were staples in Austin were like couldn't afford the rent anymore, were getting pushed out. It was just so sad the last time I was there, and I haven't been back since, but
totally.
I do love it. I do love Austin.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing I liked about, because I lived in Seattle for a handful of years, and I did like how intentional they were about not having that same sort of chains.
Yeah.
Like even thinking about the chains that were there. I mean, there's a Buffalo Wild Wings right in South Lake Union. There's one McDonald's. There's a couple of food courts and malls, but besides that, it's all local restaurants, local restaurateurs. And everything in between. Which that's where culture is. Like just use an example from here. I went to dinner on Sunday with a friend to Matteo's.
Oh, I haven't been there yet. Had you been before, or was it your first?
No, this is my first time.
Oh, I'm so excited to go.
And so here we go on tangent number one. So I went.
I know, where'd we start?
And so I went and so I heard from friends it was good, saw some posts. I was like, okay, it's time to check it out. And my theory with Italian food is I can do so much of this at my house. And so there's nothing more infuriating when I go to like a nice Italian restaurant, pay more than I should, and then I get something that I could make at home. And so I go to Matteo's, and I didn't understand the story until I got there. And then so the server comes over, and I always be like, so tell me about the place. Yeah. And they're like, sir, you're in an Olive Garden. There is no story. But with them, it was like, oh yeah, so there's Matteo. He came to the US to go to school at the U, got his master's.
He was there?
Yeah, he was there. He's their sommelier.
Oh my God.
And so he's walking around. I'm like, okay, noted, got it. Like, what else? So he went to the U. He studied finance, started out finance math, went back to Italy. Decided he wanted to start a restaurant here, brought all of his family here, and they were sitting 2 tables down from us, his mom, his brother, and his dad.
Oh my God.
And then, so he comes out, he's like, oh, I'm the sommelier. I'm like, oh, cool, I'll take a glass of the Pinot, she'll do the Chianti, and keeps going, and the bread comes out. I'm like, this bread is amazing. This isn't your typical, Focaccia's like, oh yeah, they made, the family shows up every morning and hand makes it.
No way.
And I was like, okay,
oh
noted.
My God.
And then, the food was amazing. I got this really good, bolognese and braised beef, which was really good. Again, I couldn't make that at home.
Yeah.
I was beaming from ear to ear.
Oh my God.
And then even more so. So he comes back and we're like, because when you're having a great dinner, it's not the time when you're like, oh, no dessert tonight.
Yeah.
I'm like, bring it.
You're
what
like,
do we got?
I'm going to full send it, get every single course.
Exactly. And then so he comes out, he's like, well, do you have a dessert menu? He's like, I can tell you what they are. I'm like, fire away.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, we have this. I don't know. Surprising I can remember this so well. So he's like, we have a.
That's how impressionable it was on you.
We have a brownie tiramisu. Oh. I'm not a big tiramisu fan. Call it my Mormon upbringing, but just never really been a starter for me.
Okay.
And then he's like, it wasn't the last one he said, but I'm going to save it for last. He's like, we have a panna cotta. I'm like, cool, I like panna cotta, but not my go-to. Then he said one other thing, and he's like, oh, but we also have a Banksy cheesecake.
What does that mean?
I didn't say anything, but I'm like Banksy, art,
the art,
like
the
exit out the gift
artist?
shop? Yeah, I'm like, okay, And before I can say anything, my friend's like, yup, cheesecake it is. And I'm like, well, that's what I was going to say.
I mean,
like,
cheesecake is wonderful.
send it. And like, so, and then I forgot about the Banksy reference. He comes out, he's like, here's your Banksy cheesecake. And it was this powdered sugar shape. And I'll show you a picture after.
Yeah.
But it's this powdered sugar shape of the girl, like, the girl with the holding the balloon with
the one
with
in
the heart.
Park City. Isn't it in Park City?
No, that's the one with the camera.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
I don't know where this one is. But
I know
it's
which
like
one you're talking about. Yeah.
And so it's like that with powdered sugar, and the heart is the cheesecake. And I was like, Banksy cheesecake.
Oh my God.
That's
That's so smart too, because people are going to take pictures of that. People are going to be like, where'd you get that?
Exactly.
Oh my God. I need to go here.
I wrap up this meal. I'm like, Matteo, get over here. Like, come back here. He's like, do you want more wine? I'm like, I want more wine, but I don't need more wine. But kudos. Like, touche. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, so authentic. Because like when it comes to those experiences, authenticity. Like everything is so authentic. It's not this curated thing because I want to build a restaurant so I can make money. It's like I wanted to create an home Italian experience for Salt Lake.
Is it small?
Yeah.
Like an intimate?
I would say you could probably fit maybe 40 might be stretching it.
Okay.
I can't remember what it used to be. It used to be like a fast-ish casual health place.
Oh, yeah. I know. I forget the name of it, but I know what you're talking about.
But so anyway,
Cool.
yes. So when you have cities, get rid of those places,
Yes.
replace them with these like corporate chains. And I'm not saying like I'll go to, Buffalo Wild Wings every now and then.
You always
et cetera.
need those.
Yes.
You always need those. But I think it was more of like these things that are a historical part of Austin.
Yes.
Like they are part of Austin's story from years and years and years ago. They are what brought people to Austin.
Totally.
Those were being taken away, and it was really sad.
Yeah.
So good job circling back, by the way.
Slowly loses its heart. So that's cool. So you see Austin losing it. And you just get, so and was this position at Yelp the one that you moved here for?
No. So I've been with Yelp for almost 2 years now.
Cool.
But I had actually wanted to move to Colorado originally. But I know so many people, the Vermont to Colorado pipeline, as you can imagine, is pretty, like a lot of people from Vermont live in Colorado. They're very similar.
Yes.
So it's like where people go is like Colorado, Boston, New York. And so I knew a lot of people already in Colorado, and I was like, I kind of want to be somewhere where I don't know anyone. Like, I just want to be somewhere brand new to me. And like I said, I had family friends here. Funny enough, when I moved here, they invited me to a party, and I was like, awesome. I'm going to like make friends. It's hard to make friends as an adult, which you don't realize until after you graduate college, or at least I didn't. And I was like, I'm going to make all these friends. And they were like, this is actually our going away party. We're moving back to the Northeast. And I was like, no, you're my connection here. Obviously it's worked out and been great, but it was just funny that like moving here sight unseen, luckily I loved it. And then the only connection I had here left shortly after. Ugh. So it was funny.
Well, hopefully there's been more connections that have been made since
Of course. Then. Yeah. Yeah. So when I first moved here, I worked for a conservation organization in Logan, and I did conservation work for a few months and then moved on in my career from there to many different other places. And now I'm with Yelp.
Hey,
so
here I am. I'm a big fan of my career progression has been a narrowing pendulum swing where it's like, oh, I want to study that. It's architecture in school. Not going to happen. Civil engineering. That sounds interesting. Pre-pharmacy. No. And that's just like the educational part of it. Yeah. And then after it's like, oh, okay, we hate this. We hate these people. This sucks. And cool. Now we're in a stable place.
Well, it's like the ADHD, like we were talking about. I'm like, I have all these different interests all the time. Like I love learning new things and meeting new people. And that I feel like you can relate to that because that's why you do this podcast. But like, I just want to try everything. And I'm like, finally at a place, I'm like, okay, I can't do everything. I need to just, figure out one thing or a couple things. I can't do conservation work and this and this and this. So anyways, conservation work didn't end up working out. I thought it was going to be my end all be all, but I am where I am and I'm very happy. So
hey, that's the important part.
Yeah.
As long as you're not stuck or feel hopeless.
Yeah.
And you're smiling. Because I fundamentally don't believe that work should be something you love.
Yeah.
Like people always say, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. I'm like, yeah, cool. But you'll also start to resent it because it's something you have to do to exist.
Yes.
And because my theory is if I can do the right thing that tickles my brain in the right way, gives me some sort of fulfillment, I can have growth, I can live the quality of life I want, that's good. And then if you do have passions, like that's a side project thing. You're like, work on it on there because then there is no one saying, hey, you didn't hit your quota for this, or you have to do that in order to get paid. Like you don't like the best comparison I could say is like my sister played soccer at Utah State. She was the biggest soccer fanatic in the world. And then all of a sudden she goes to this place where you have to do things and like things might not go well. And like it's held over your head.
And then it makes it not fun.
Oh, she fell out of love with it very quickly.
Exactly.
I mean, she still loves it, like her daughter, like her kids play it and is still a fan of it. But it was just like seeing this passion just kind of go away so quickly is sad. And I've seen people do that similarly. Like they'll have these passions and they'll be like, I want to go do this for work. And I'm like, okay, you're either going to learn a lesson or you're going to like it.
Yes.
And so that's so fun that you got to land where you are.
Yeah. It was not a straight path, but whatever. That's how life is. Nothing is that way.
Nothing is as linear as we think it is.
Yes, exactly.
So you end up at Yelp with a community manager. So for those that don't know, I mean, what do community managers do? How many of them are there? Give us the lowdown on what that is.
Yeah, and I will also give a background on Yelp. I don't want to assume that everybody knows what Yelp is. It's a review platform for local businesses. You can have a page up on Yelp and people can leave you reviews up to 5 stars and comments. So every review comes with like a comment as well. It's not just a star rating. So it's more of a social media platform than I think people think that it is, because you can friend people and post photos and share reviews and check into businesses, communicate with business owners. Like it's much more than just a review platform.
True.
But yeah, I am the Salt Lake City community manager. It's just me. I'm a team of 1 and I have a part-time intern and then we have a part-time person in Utah County as well. So
you are almost like all of Utah.
I mean, she has Utah County and then I have my region is Salt Lake, Ogden, and Park City is kind of like my region. And then but we feature people from all over Utah and businesses from all over Utah. It's not just in these areas that we have folks who work. But yeah, so we, as a community manager, I mean, we have one of us at least in every major city. Like cities like LA and New York have like 4 or 5 community managers for different neighborhoods in the larger cities. But we partner with businesses to provide like free marketing resources essentially for them. So we have a community called the Yelp Elite Squad, and they are people who are very passionate about spending dollars locally. They love local businesses. They love going to support local businesses, hearing business owner stories, which is why I was like so drawn to your podcast too. We just have this awesome community of people who love supporting local, and we will partner with businesses to feature them on our social media. We do meet the owner stories. We host events where we will bring our Yelp Elite Squad into a business to like experience the business and hear their story. I mean, everything we do is free for businesses. And that's I kind of do a little bit of everything. I'm on social media. I'm hosting events. I'm educating people about Yelp. I'm doing stuff like this. So my role is kind of always changing, which is like perfect for the way my brain works. Cause I like, am not always doing the same thing. I'm always like bouncing around.
Yeah. A little bit of creativity behind it. A little bit of strategizing. That's so fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been fun.
So, I mean, so a typical day, I imagine you spend a lot of time in a car. I imagine you spend a lot of time with people. I mean, I hate to say, what does a typical day look like, but what does a typical day look like?
It's so varied. And that's why I love this job. I mean, today funnily enough, like I had this in the afternoon, and then around like 1:30, this business owner called me and he's like, "Hey, I just opened this coffee shop. We'd been talking on Instagram." He was like, "Can you come here right now?" And I was like, "Sure." Like, yeah, sure. I'll come right now. And so I took some like content for them and we were talking about doing an event together. And so I don't know, my days are so different. Like sometimes I'll be hosting an event. Like next Monday, this local business posted on a Facebook group and was like, "Hey, we're struggling to have people know like that we exist, like where we are. And so we're hosting a sound bath with them." And so it's so varied. Like my days are so different. Like sometimes I'm posting on social media. Sometimes I'm writing a blog. Sometimes I'm hosting an event, educating business owners. It's like so different every single day. And I love it.
And I'm sure it's like, you're such a white knight in those moments because it's such a hard, economy right now to have a small business. These people have a never-ending list of things to do. Yes. And then here you show up, you're like, "Hey, like, how about we let's bring some people in here?" Or, "Hey, let's," like, especially in a world we live in today where reviews dictate everything that we do. Like I don't order a thing on Amazon. I'm telling like, is that 4.7?
Yeah, exactly.
Reviews. Cool. Going to dinner.
4.7 or 4.8. Yeah.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure that there's part of that like educational process of like, here's how we get people obsessed with you.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, it's not always positive. Like people have very different opinions about review platforms. And so dealing with that too, and just educating people, there's a lot of misconceptions out there. There's a lot of strong opinions, which I totally understand. I mean, getting a negative review is really difficult for a business when that is your like baby, like you grew that from the start. So, like it's just so many different things and so many different levels of educating people, bringing folks in. It's a lot of different things.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
I'm sure like I'm so jealous because one thing I love, I mean, half of this is exactly that. Yeah. But like, I love sitting down with people and being like, tell me about your business. Tell me about how, because like to your point, it's their baby, it's their child. Yeah. It's what they spend all of their money on. It's what they spend all their time on. And when they're not spending time on it, they're thinking about it.
Yep.
And that's so interesting. But like, I'm so curious, like what are some of your favorite stories you've heard or some of your favorite entrepreneurs
that you've been
able to meet?
Oh my gosh. I can't even, so many different ones. I'm trying to think like recently we had a really, really cool event recently. And I'm like kicking myself that I didn't invite you. But it was called Frightmare on 5th. And it was like our biggest event of the year. We had, like 350 people at the Leonardo, and it was a tasting event. And so local businesses came in and had samples of all their food. Honest Eatery was there. We had Taco, Oof. The best tacos. We had a ton of like hyper local businesses, like very, very small businesses that are operating out of like commercial kitchens or ghost kitchens that like don't have the space to host an event, but they want to participate in our event. So it was like this really cool community event. And there was this one place, Zaffo's Pasta, best pasta ever, Italian food. You should try them out. They operate out of ComCom Kitchen, and it was just so cool to like be able to provide a space for businesses like that were like, we don't have a brick and mortar yet. That's our goal eventually. But like we got to get out into the community and be a part of this event and spread the word about what we do and who we are. And that is like the best part of my job, is like getting people in front of business owners like that and providing opportunities like that. So that was a really cool one, because they were like, oh my gosh, like I felt so badly. They were prepping for this event, and someone on their team who was supposed to work the event for them like dropped out last minute, and they were like, we almost canceled. We almost didn't come to this, but we're so glad we did. And just stuff like that is so awesome to be able to be that for people, or provide a space for people. But there's so many different business owner stories. Like Libertango hosted an event series with us where we had a very intimate...
For those who don't know, what's Libertango?
Libertango is a steakhouse, amazing steakhouse. They actually have 2 locations in Brazil. They're an Argentinian steakhouse, but they have 2 locations in Brazil, and then they opened one in Utah.
Logical sense.
Yeah. They just have this really wonderful story about how they built these businesses in Brazil and then came to Utah, and everything is so thoughtfully, like every detail in their restaurant is so thoughtfully put together. And being able to hear the story of like how they came and why they came from Brazil to Utah, and like hearing the passion behind business owners, and like, it's so fun. I mean, you get to hear it all the time, but it's just like so fun, and people love that. And that's what makes people want to go back to businesses. It humanizes the business, and people will go back more once they hear their stories. So,
and I totally agree, because like so many times because like to me, a meal is such a social experience, and a lot of like Utah culture that stems from like, I mean, the LDS church is like, I mean, there's no alcohol involved, which is fine, but like that brings out a whole social side of things. And then, I mean, usually it's very frugal. And so you don't like get good food. It's like, okay, well, look at the chicken. We'll split it. But like when it's like, oh, no, we're going to get some of this. We're going to do this. Let's get a bottle of wine of this. Let's do this. It becomes this moment. And I think, and like one thing I always like to do, especially when I go to a restaurant that I know, I mean, I'm not going to go to like Buca de Beppo and be like, now how did this restaurant get here? Tell me your story.
Tell me your story.
They're like, did you not see the plaque on the way in?
They're like, it's on your menu.
But like those those like other restaurants, like I was talking about Mateo's, it's like, ask them what this is about.
Yes.
Like you're missing half of the experience. You don't even know the context of how it got here to appreciate where you are.
And how you talking about that experience was so cool because it was so memorable for you that you remembered the desserts. Like that's how memorable of an experience that was. So like to be able to do that with business owners in an intimate setting is really fun.
Exactly.
So,
and like, that was one thing I've gotten to do in like previous jobs too, is just being able to be like, oh, like you founded this business, like tell me about it.
Yeah.
And it's such an interesting, unique place to be. But like, I mean, small business owners, they love telling it because it's the story of their life.
Yes.
It's what motivated them to do this. I mean, especially in the example of Mateo's, it's like these family, like we literally got, well, because they have something on the menu called Nona's lasagna ragu. We're like, well, which one you get? He's like, well, get that one. We're like, why? He's like, that's the grandma's recipe. That's what started all of this. We're like, okay, like, I'm not going to say, well, we'll take the other one.
Yeah, no, actually, I'm good.
And so it's just like so fun, like having all of that come together and like how important and special that is. And I think that's something that, I mean, I think food is a great growth avenue for Utah right now. I think we have a lot of, I mean, sorry, not Utah, more specifically Salt Lake, I mean, broader, even more Utah, but Salt Lake too, is like this quality of food. Cause like we have good food and like we also have a lot of food entrepreneurs. However, a lot of those food entrepreneurs are like, I mean, like a lot of fast casual places, a lot of grab and go, but it would make sense with, I mean, the culture of Utah and big families and I mean, just trying to get food there instead of more of a curated experience. And not saying one's right, not saying one's wrong, but just different.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because like when I moved here, Austin is a foodie city, like that people go there specifically to eat. Like you can go anywhere and it's amazing food. Like it is an amazing meal. When I first moved to Utah, that wasn't the case here. And I think I was listening actually to a podcast with, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. The guy, oh my gosh, and I'm blanking on his blog too. I'll have to think of it. But I was listening to another podcast and somebody was talking about the food scene in Utah and how like 10 years ago, like 5 years ago even, people were like, there's no good food in Utah. Like there's no good food here. You can't find a good restaurant anywhere. And I feel like that's changed so much in the past like 5 or so years, like since I've moved here. Like when I first moved here, I was like, there's not a lot of like places that I love. I don't know where to refer people to go. And the food landscape has just changed so much. Like it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's like, cause I'm someone who, if I'm going to give a recommendation to someone, I'm not just going to like shoot from the hip. Like I have to be able to be like, I know you're going to enjoy this exactly what it is and I'll do it. And I think to that exact point, like, I mean, let's use moving to Seattle in 2017 as an example. Before that, not a lot of great food. Like not saying everything was like terrible.
No,
and there was nothing
not at
to
all.
eat, but there's like this whole other level that you have to get to.
Yeah.
And I think it was starting to get there. And then I get to go to Seattle where amazing food.
A foodie city, another one. Yeah.
And so that's kind of where, and like when I was there, I also have a cousin who lives down in Portland and he and his partner live in Willamette Valley where they grow some of the best Chard and Pinot Noir in the world. And so all of a sudden, like we're 3 hours apart and like he'd text me on a Friday afternoon and be like, what are you doing tonight? I'm like, no plans. He's like, well, good thing you don't have anything to cancel because I'm already on my way up and I have reservations. Don't plan a thing. I'm like,
okay.
Don't tell me it's a good time.
Yeah.
And like vice versa, I'd go down there and like it was, and then, so he's a chef by profession. And so we'd sit down and be like, now you have to understand how this is made. You have to understand why the sauce is like this. You have to understand they did this, or like they really sucked at this, or here's this cocktail. This is why they use this flavor. And like, it was something I was so ignorant of from before, but just became this sponge of this experience of food and eating and social gatherings and bringing it together. And like, he was really the first one that really taught me about like, this might sound kind of dumb, but like an adult night out. Yeah. And what I mean by that is like, I mean, going out, even in college, that's a whole other thing, but like growing up, it's like, okay, we're going to go to Charlie Chow's, we're going to eat and we're going to leave. Yeah. And we're probably not going to all have a great experience. Dad's going to get mad. And then
it's always the dad getting mad. Oh yeah. Dad's always mad.
And then all of a sudden I go down there. He's like, okay, so we're going to go to this restaurant. We're going to put our name in. They're going to tell us it's a 30, 45 minutes wait. We'll say yes. We'll give them our number. They'll text us. We're going to go next door to this speakeasy.
We go get a cocktail.
We're going to go get a cocktail. And I'm like, okay. Like, and again, he's like, I don't touch a menu. So I'm like, okay, cocktails. We have a cocktail, maybe 2, go back, have dinner. We're actually usually not even that. Usually it's like, we'll go get a cocktail. Then we'll go to dinner and then we'll put our name down. Then we'll go get an appetizer and a drink or a glass of wine somewhere else. Yeah. Then we'll go back to dinner. We'll have, a bottle of wine, probably usually 2 bottles of wine.
Yeah.
One to start, one to finish, full 5-course meal. And then after it's like, oh, I mean, I still got time for dessert. Or not. Let's go get a port. Let's go get some like a nice little dessert one.
It's an experience.
Yes.
It's an experience. And we didn't have that in Utah so much until recently, I feel like.
Yes. And so I remember like one of the first times I like turned over to my partner at the time. I was like, that was so much fun. And it wasn't like this college fun where it's like so odd and weird and like youth and anyway, all the college stuff.
No,
that
totally.
happened. And so it's like, that's kind of when I like got obsessed with this and like probably part of why I like love Edison so much and all those other things. And even now today, I'm like the amount of people I meet in Salt Lake that, I mean, I don't want to like put them in a bucket, but people who may not have had that experience of leaving and having that. And they'll be like, well, let's get together. I'm like, okay, like meet me here. They're like, well, what's the plan? I'm like, I got you.
The plan is that we're going to go with the flow.
Exactly. You won't be thirsty. You won't be hungry.
You're not going to be hungry.
And like little by little, I'm like, oh, so we're going to go here. They're like, oh, okay, so that's it. We're going here. I'm like, no. We've got an agenda.
That's the start.
Yes.
That's where we're starting.
And so then all of a sudden, like I take them through these like experiences, like selfishly, because I want to do it. And it's nice to bring friends along. Like, oh, so this is how you do this. And I've seen like little by little, it starts to become even more. And like, so like one example I like to use is, I mean, Takashi. Takashi is amazing sushi.
Yeah.
Some of the best, definitely in Salt Lake. But I also love that they put in post office place. Exactly.
Yep.
Because if you've ever been to Takashi, there's always a line.
There's always a way. I don't think they do reservations there either, do they?
They don't.
So you always have, so smart of them,
So smart.
by the way. And the cocktails at post office place, so good.
So good.
And they have those little snacks there too.
Oh, yeah. I've had everything.
And it's a rotating menu. So you always get something new.
Exactly.
Oh, so good.
Because it's funny. I remember the last time I went there, go put my name in. They're like, oh, it's gonna be like an hour. And my friend I was with, they're like, oh no, like we can't go. I was like, no, we can.
Do I have news for you?
Yeah, it's like we're going next door, and you're gonna have like, and it was almost got to the point like, oh wait, we have to go to dinner now. I'm like, yes. So I mean, it's so fun that you notice that too, because obviously you have such a unique point of view of kind of what's coming in, what's coming out. What are people thinking about this? And so I guess maybe a bit more detailed, but like what kind of things have you changed or seen change in your time in your role?
In this role, that's a good question.
Any sort of like trends, any sort of
in the food landscape?
I mean, any landscape, because I know Yelp is more than just food.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good question. I'm gonna have to think on that for a second. But even just since I've like moved here, I feel like what I've noticed actually recently is there's a lot of like pop-up situations. Like there will be like a lot of like, hey, like Central Ninth Kitchen does this a lot. I don't know if, oh my gosh, have you had their breakfast sandwich? So good.
Yes.
So good.
Shout out Scott Paulson for showing me, and I still think about it most weeks.
Gosh, I literally think about it all the time. It's so good. I went back, the first time I had it, I went back like a couple days later because I couldn't stop thinking about it. It's so good.
Perfect focaccia, that nice spicy spread.
It's warm. And their menu is so simple too. It's like egg, meat, like ham, choose your meat, choose your cheese, choose your type of egg.
I don't need a cheesecake menu. Just do less and do it good.
Exactly. But they do pop-ups a lot. Like they'll do, there's an Instagram account called Thank You for Short Notice. And they'll be like, hey, we're doing an oyster bar at Central Ninth Kitchen tonight only. And it's like short notice. Like you don't have a ton of time to make a decision. And so I've seen that a lot, like in Utah, where there's like these little pop-up things, or like a burger night at a restaurant or a bar that doesn't usually serve burgers. Like I feel like that's a new thing that I've been seeing. I don't know if you've noticed that or seen any of that.
Have you ever been to Hot Buns?
No, but that is what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Because it's part of Copper Common.
Yes.
Right?
So
but it's a little window, but it's only open like Thursday through Saturday.
Yeah. Late night.
From like whatever. Yeah.
Just show up at the window or run your app. And my favorite thing is, so I've gone once where I sat there and waited because it was in the summer. And then actually this past weekend I went there. And it's funny because if you go and order and you sit there, it's kind of around this corner. I can't remember what the street is. It's not Regent. It's where, like Franklin and all of them are.
Franklin Ave.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Quick, what's the number for 911? And you'll sit there and all of a sudden, like, I think when we stood there that time in the summer, there was like 4 or 5 groups that ended up turning up this street. And they were all just like, kind of like, I mean, it was like post night out, kind of complaining or like bitching about something. And then they'd see us and just like freeze. And we're just kind of like chuckling, like, go on. Yeah. Like, what did Sarah do this time?
I want to know.
But yeah, no, totally agree. And like Hot Buns, like because you have Copper Commons, quality ingredients. So it's not like you're stopping by McDonald's. Not saying there's anything wrong with stopping by McDonald's.
No, I'm not above a McDonald's late night run.
And if anyone is, they're lying to themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
But so then you go here and like we got like that night specifically was such a great night because like we went, I'm like, I'm gonna get a burger, I'm gonna get fries, I'm gonna get a shake. Actually, not even fries, they're smashed potatoes and they're really good.
Oh my God, I have to go.
Brought it back to my friend's house, watched some stand-up comedy. It was a great night.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like there's all these little trends of like
Totally.
people like pop up, kind of like smaller menus.
Yeah.
And I think it has to attest to a lot of what you're talking about, where there are people who want to get things off the ground, but can't necessarily go sign a lease and put in a kitchen and install a hood and a grease
Exactly.
trap.
It's expensive.
So expensive.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how everyone does it. Like it's so hard. But also to kind of like piggyback off of that, late night food is also a trend I've been seeing recently too. In Salt Lake, that is not a thing. When I first moved here, D's was like the only thing. It's like Big Daddy's Pizza, D's Diner, and McDonald's, which not above it.
Yeah.
But sometimes you want Hot Buns or there's 9up Night Market. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're awesome. They were at the farmer's market this summer, but they also, you can order from like DoorDash from them.
Cool.
Late night, but they're a late night thing. And so I feel like that's a new trend that I've been seeing too. And like bars. So, I mean, it's like Salt Lake is not a bar destination, I feel like, but there's like Citizens just opened. The Pearl, I don't know if you've been there. The Pearl is amazing. I mean, they didn't just open, but I think it was last year. But I feel like there's a lot more bars and breweries. And it's gone in like,
I want to interject there for a sec because it's like, because when you go to like a big city and go to bars, it's not just about being a bar. Mm-hmm. And I think historically Salt Lake has struggled with that identity crisis of it. And obviously like Salt Lake has such a weird relationship with alcohol for reasons we know and don't need to go into. But like even when I was in college or like starting to like explore nightlife, like it's like, okay, so we're going to oh my gosh, the place Bourbon House. Mm-hmm. And everybody would go there. RIP. But then they'd be like, oh, everyone's going to Twist now. Everyone's going to here now. And it wouldn't be necessarily like a new place, but it would be this rotating place that people would go to.
Yeah.
However, now I feel like there's this new trend of really trying to provide an experience or at least get some sort of nuance and niche into it.
Yes.
And like one good example of this is Sayonara. So
I haven't been there yet.
So cool.
Oh.
So I actually had a really good like Small Lake moment with some friends. Actually, that same night I went to Hot Buns.
Oh.
That's so funny. So we meet at my friend's house and we're like, where are we going to go? I'm like, I want to go to Sayonara. I haven't been there yet. Mm-hmm. And so for those who don't know, new place where Ginger Street used to be on State and 3rd. And I mean, the vibe is supposed to be like, street Tokyo Japanese bar.
Yeah.
And so we walk in and we see my friend I was with, his brother and his wife, and then another one of our friends and their wife. And I sit down and they're like, please come join. Like, absolutely. Come join and hang out. And it was such a great night. But it's like those things where you can look at and say, it's not just about me coming and getting a drink. It's about, again, like we talked about, like this experience behind it. And like, and another good example is Waikiki, where you're like, would you like to go to a drag show or would you like to go to a silent disco? Mm-hmm. If you answered no, then probably don't come.
Then
if you
this
answered
isn't
yes,
your vibe. Yeah.
Then come on in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Totally. It's so exciting seeing Salt Lake City be so vibrant in that area because that was not a thing. Oh, from Vermont and Austin, something that's unique, I think, in Utah, and you've lived over other places too, so you might have a different perspective on this, but in Vermont and Austin, you have like a strip of bars down like Main Street and you kind of bar hop. There's like Lodo in Denver. There, East 6th in Austin, Rainy Street in Austin. Like it's kind of you bop around to these different bars, and that's not a thing here. It's like you kind of pick a place, and I feel like that's why in college it was like, oh, we're going to Twist because there's not really other things around Twist. I mean, now there is, but yeah.
And it's like there's little pockets here and there. There's Johnny on Second's beer bar and like
totally, but it's like not like a strip.
Yes,
like it is other places.
Yeah, like the closest thing to that's like Main Street, but then even then it's kind of like
Keys on Main. Cheers to you.
Whiskey Street.
I mean, I guess there is, but it's different.
Like it's not like we're all just gonna go in here and are you a bar, or are you a restaurant?
Yeah. Oh gosh. And so many businesses struggle with that. Oh my gosh.
I struggle with that. I walk in and I'm like, so
do I need my ID? Do I have to order food?
Yeah. It's like this decision tree. I'm like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And I hate when they look at you, they're like, don't you know you need to order food? I'm like, I don't know what I need to do. Okay.
Just tell me.
It's not straightforward. Oh, that's so true. I mean, I guess like, let's take a break from food for a sec and think about like, what other kind of business owners do you interact with besides, like food and bev that might be a little bit different and kind of need you in a different way?
Yeah, totally. So, actually I think people associate Yelp with food, but Yelp is so much more than that. Like we talked about, it's any local business. Like I found landscaping, my lawn mowing guy on Yelp, and like I'd put out a request for like HVAC stuff when I was getting my air conditioning in my house. And it's so much more than just food, but I think that's what people associate it with because that's how it's primarily used by folks. But like actually the next few events that I have lined up, like one is a sound bath at a yoga studio. One is at Rumble Boxing, which is a new boxing studio in Riverton, which is like a very randomly up and coming area, part of the valley. Riverton.
They put a new.
There's a huge mall there. There's a ton of businesses popping up there, like lots of local businesses, lots of chains. It's kind of a mix. So we're doing like a boxing class with them because they are like, hey, we want to get more folks aware of us, like know that we're here and that we offer these classes. And so we're doing that. Another one we're doing at the beginning of December is with a space called Synchronicities, which started as a crystal shop, but now they do like sound baths and they have a salt cave, and the Real Housewives of Salt Lake were recently there, like filming an episode. So like,
I think I got an ad on Instagram. For
yes,
the salt
I
cave.
did too.
Okay.
That's how I found them.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we do a ton of different events. It's not just food, and it's funny that the next few events that I have aren't even food related, but it's just getting folks into businesses. And I mean, I've hosted random events like a butter making workshop. I've hosted fitness classes, yoga classes, cycling, like just so many different events. So we're not limited to just restaurants. We want to help all local businesses and provide opportunities for any local business here.
Yeah.
So
never
we can make most things
day.
work. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, definitely not your typical 9 to 5. That's so fun.
Yeah. And it's definitely not a 9 to 5. I mean, I'm always working crazy hours, but
yeah,
I love it.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I guess, because I mean, obviously you say you use the platform a lot and find things for your own needs and all of that. But is there anything recently that you've found in Salt Lake, or like any like places that you go to religiously that you feel like might be off the beaten path that people don't know about necessarily?
That's a good question. I think what I guess has been kind of a thing for me recently is these small businesses that are operating out of ghost kitchens. Like I'm going to shout out Zappos Pasta again, because I literally had the best lasagna that I've ever had from Zappos Pasta a couple weekends ago. It was so amazing. But they're like operating out of these commercial kitchens. They usually just do like DoorDash or delivery, or you can come pick something up from them. And I just love supporting those local businesses because it's people who are so passionate about what they do. They want to get this business off the ground. And that's kind of been my primary focus, I guess, recently. Like Salt Lake City is also operating out of ComCom Kitchen. What else? Parfait Diem. They make the most amazing like parfaits with like these wafers that they make themselves. Oh my gosh, they're so good. 9 Up Night Market, like just these businesses, the business owners love what they do. Oftentimes they have a job like Zappos Pasta. The owner, I don't even know how he does this. He has this pasta business. It's only open on Saturdays, him and his wife. He goes to school full time and he has a full-time job outside of it. I'm like, how do you have time for anything? Seriously. Like, it's so crazy, but they're so passionate about what they do that they want to have these businesses. And so that's kind of been how I've been spending my money lately. I feel like
you just need to open up like your own consultancy where someone's like, hey, I've got a third date coming up. I want to take them to this. This is what I'm looking for. You're like, let me talk to my crystal ball. Yeah, you need to go here.
We go through my Rolodex of businesses. Yeah. I feel like you could do that too.
Yeah, but out of this, like I could, but you're so much closer to it. And I feel like if there is like, quote, a new place, unquote, you're probably be one of the first people to know about it.
Yeah. It's been so fun. And I know it's made me fall in love with Salt Lake City. Like I already loved Salt Lake City, but like you kind of what you brought up at the beginning, you're like, somebody in your position, I would assume you're from here, but it's like, I feel like I'm writing a love letter. Like that sounds so silly. I feel like I'm always writing a love letter to Salt Lake City when I'm posting about businesses. Like I love Salt Lake City so much. I have such a passion for it here. And just being able to like support the community and build community in different ways here has been really cool.
Yeah, I think you hit on the head of like community. Like I think because like I'll preach it from everywhere, but Salt Lake is such a unique place with community because, and I've talked about it in previous episodes where Salt Lake itself is kind of a weird dynamic of community because of, the large LDS population.
Yeah.
But on top of that, that also creates this huge counterculture. And on top of that, like once people fall away from that main community, they tend to gravitate and look for something else. And
Yep.
there's so many sub communities of that. And I think food is something that is growing more as people start to realize, quality of the food has, the social experiences it brings,
Yeah.
and the connectivity with people, and being able to see and have that and like be so close to it and see these communities grow from the ground up. These ghost kitchens where it's just like, hey, we're a bunch of chefs and we're trying to make it. Like, it's not us versus each other, but we're all grinding together.
Oh my gosh. And that's what's so cool about the community here too. Like the foodie community here is just so beautiful. Like business owners want to help other business owners succeed. Like I see that everywhere. Like, at the event that I had Frightmare on 5th at the Leonardo, like so many business owners were like, in the future, I would love to have my friend who owns this business here, or like, I'm going to connect you with my friend who needs some help. Like people want to help each other, and people want to support local businesses too, not just business owners helping each other, but people really want to like, hey, I know I can get this at Walmart, but is there anybody local who like sells this? Like, I feel like that's such, I don't think that's unique to Salt Lake, but I notice it a lot here.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. And it's so interesting that's one thing I've learned about, we were talking about it a little bit before this, but what I've learned in like the podcast that getting it off the ground was if you ask someone for help, people are so willing to help you.
They love to help you, and they don't see it as a competitive thing.
And like the nice thing about me, it's like, I'm not asking anyone for money. I'm not asking anything that they have to do. I'm like, hey, can I just like talk to you for like an hour and a half, 2 hours?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, sure.
Sure.
And like, it's always a great experience. Everybody walks away feeling better than they did before. I get to make a new friend and get to know the city better. And it's like so fun from your perspective to hear, because before I moved back to Salt Lake, I didn't realize how many people that weren't from Salt Lake were in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
And it's interesting now because I get a lot of energy from those people, because there's so much of Salt Lake that I'm just numb to.
Yeah, totally.
But then I'll talk to these people like, oh my God, ski season's coming. I'm like, yeah, but it's not like it used to. And I have to wait hours to go up and I have to wait in line. They're like, yeah, but it's there. And I'm like, you're right. There's so much of this, and like being able to, explore the outdoors more and getting able to like go downtown and explore that more. Like there's not only, is it like Salt Lake of a starting place, such a great place, but then you see the trajectory of it, and then you see people come and recognize that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we're at with it.
Totally. And it's interesting that you say that, because that's how I feel about Vermont. Like, I feel like you kind of get jaded a little bit when you grow up somewhere. Like you get used to it. Like I've met so many people who grew up in Salt Lake and have never been to any of the national parks here, because they're just like, I grew up here. Like, yeah, I've heard people talk about it. You kind of like take it for granted. And that's how I did. That's what I was like in Vermont. Like, it wasn't until
What do you mean you've never been to the Ben and Jerry's factory?
Yeah, no, literally. I just went there this summer. But like there was a hike that I'd never done. It's Mount Mansfield. I don't know if you've heard of it. In Vermont, it's like the tallest peak in Vermont, I think.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
But I'd never done it. And I in Camel's Hump, I'd like never done it before. Those are like two of the biggest mountains. And it wasn't until I like moved away and came back and was like, oh my gosh, I have this like nostalgia. I need to go hike. Like I really feel like I want people to like live other places and come back, because you see your city or your hometown in such a different light when you get that energy from other people, when you haven't lived there in a little while. So
much to learn. Like I have a friend right now who I think I got married last year. Yeah. Last year they want to move to Washington to Seattle. So I've been talking to him a lot about it, my opinions. And so he'd been in LA before. She hasn't really lived outside of here. And I'm like, hey, you guys absolutely should do this. Yeah. One, because it only strengthens your relationship, because you're there together. There's no one else to rely on. And like, that's cool. Don't get it wrong. But you get to go learn somewhere else and be able to appreciate it because it's so new to you. Yeah. But then it also makes you strengthen that appreciation for where you're coming from.
Totally.
Because it forces you to realize what you did have for granted. And then when you go back, you get to appreciate it. Yeah. And they were like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, and nothing's forever. So we can go back and like, just do it.
Just do it. It's freaking hard, but do it. Yeah. Like I've learned so much about myself living other places that I would have never learned before.
And like, I remember when I was growing up and like, even in college, like I would look at, both friends and family be like, why'd you come back? Like there's so many boomerang people. And then as I kind of am that age that I was seeing, I'm like, it all makes sense. Yeah. Find me a place where you have this connection outdoors, your family's here, that provides such a network. Totally. You know people, the economy's growing, people are nice, the city's clean. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good.
Name a city that is though. Like there's, you're like, I actually have one.
No. There's some that are close. But,
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I could talk about why Salt Lake should be on that list all the time.
Yeah, totally.
So I guess one question I have is come to mind is, so obviously you have access to Yelp in a way that not a lot of other people do, but I mean, do you get to see like how much something's growing or like see, I don't know, I guess like as someone who works in data for my day job, like do you get to see how everything is growing and building and seeing how things are changing and these new restaurants are growing, these other restaurants are dying, and just kind of see it from like a 30,000 foot view?
Yeah, I guess kind of. It's really interesting to me, and I still haven't figured this out yet. Like, I feel like there are some restaurants that do really, really well here with like no marketing, and then there's other restaurants that put a lot into marketing and they don't do well. And I'm just so curious. Like, I want to do a whole study on it. I could never. My ADHD could never. But I want to do a whole study on it because I'm just so curious about what makes a restaurant successful or a business successful in Salt Lake City, because it's such a unique place here. But yeah, I mean, we do a lot of data polls for different things. Like right now I'm working on a blog, and it's like the top places to get hot chocolate in the US, the top 50 places to get hot chocolate in the US. And
Spoiler alert, like, 49 of them are in Salt Lake.
Yeah, yeah, for real though, for real. But we just released our top 25 places to eat in the Salt Lake area, recently. So that was really fun. We launched it yesterday. And like seeing that is really cool. So I don't really get to see a ton of data all the time, but like it is really cool seeing these trends and seeing reviews. And like Mateo's actually, like, is it Mateo or Mateo's? Mateo's?
Yeah.
I can't remember. Like they have been all over Yelp. Like, and I don't know, like maybe they have been doing the marketing, but I feel like it's this experience that people are having. And that is really what draws people to restaurants. Like people have been reviewing them like crazy on Yelp because they have really on Yelp. Yeah.
It takes a lot for me to leave a review.
Yeah, no, like, and they have been all over it. But then other businesses who opened up before them or around the same time don't have that traction. But I feel like they haven't been like marketing a ton, you know? So it's like, it's just so interesting to me, but I really think it's that experience that people have.
Yeah.
Like it was such a good experience for you that you want to share your experience with everyone.
I mean, especially like in today and like us as consumers and like, I mean, as an anecdote, my mother, like I've had conversations with her where I'm like, hey, my birthday or Christmas is coming up. Like, don't you dare get me a thing. I would so much rather you get like me, you and Manny Petty's, and we can go hang out and like spend time together. And I think she's kind of emulated that for like a lot of the grandkids and things too, but we're just so much more experience based than like ownership or like things based.
Well, we have so many things.
Exactly. I don't need anything.
I don't need another thing.
But I could always use a night of good food and good friends
and memories and photos and
all of those things. And so I think you hit it on the head. I think the more that we have these places that are authentic, that are intentional, that are quality, there's always space at the top for those.
Yep.
If you're going to come in and say, well, if I can just cut here and do this, then I can make $10,000 a month and then I can sell it for $5 million later. Like no one's walking to a restaurant hoping that that's the experience they find themselves in.
Totally.
And so I think it's fun to see the future of it, because I still think, I do think that, and like, I hate to say this because it sounds a little pessimistic, but like over the past 3 years, a lot of businesses and especially restaurants have gone out of business.
Yeah. It's been so sad.
Some of them.
Yeah.
But then there's some I look at, I'm like, I don't even know how you were there to begin with.
You're like, I get it. Yeah.
Like even then, like I go to restaurants sometimes, I'm like, okay, we'll see what's here in 6 months.
We'll see.
and like, I always wish people the best, and I wish people, and like sometimes I will leave reviews at those places to be like, constructive feedback on like, hey, like this sauce wasn't very good. Maybe don't do like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example I've done, but like, I want people to learn and grow and succeed. Cause like if there were only good restaurants in Salt Lake, we all win. Yeah. There's only great businesses, great things happening. You'll do it. And like Yelp is helping provide that to do it. And you get to have such fun little, like what do I want to say? Like just a nice little seat in the driver's seat. Just seeing it all happen in front of you.
Yeah. It's been cool. It's been really cool, especially as it's been growing and changing. And it's interesting. Like, I don't know. I feel like also the foodie scene and community here has grown and changed a lot. Like the influencer community here on Instagram has like grown a lot. Like I feel like that was always a thing in Austin, Seattle, bigger cities, LA, but in Utah, that's been cool to see that change a lot as well. So.
And I think I've embraced that a lot too. Cause like, I'm not someone who's like, let's follow all my influencers because I need to be influenced. But even now where it's like, hey, where do you want to go eat? I'm like, I have no idea. And so I'll be like, well, what do they say? I'm like, yeah, let's go try it. And it's such like an easier way to go about it. Cause sometimes, I mean, I get like decision paralysis from like, oh, there's 90 restaurants. I don't even know what cuisine I want to do this. So it's nice to just have things.
Yeah. Well, and it's, kind of to what we were talking about earlier, like trends too. I feel like an interesting trend I've noticed in myself is like, there are so many places now that I have on my list, like Sayonara and like so many Hot Buns, like so many places that I want to check out that I haven't yet. Like, I feel like there's just a new place all the time. And I don't feel like, I mean, maybe it's just because I'm in this world now and I'm seeing it, but I don't feel like it was always like that, where I was like, I have to go to the Pearl for brunch. I haven't been to their brunch yet. I have to go to Kumo Cafe for brunch. Like, there's somewhere new that I want to go like all the time. Like, there's so many new places opening up.
Take me with you.
There's so many places. It's crazy.
I know, because I can't remember. There's so many Instagram accounts now, but it's like it just keeps like every week. I feel like there's 3 new places. Here's these 4 new restaurants, and you just can't even keep up anymore.
No, it's crazy. It's crazy. So and it's awesome. It's good for Salt Lake.
Oh yeah, everybody wins.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, like looking forward in Salt Lake from like the point of view that you have. I guess kind of like 2 questions. One, where do you think things are going? We've kind of talked about it a little bit, but I mean, where do you see Salt Lake being in like 5 years based on the current trajectory it's at?
I think another trend. Now I'm like, ever since you asked that question, now I'm like, there's so many things. I feel like there's been a need for like third spaces recently, like especially after COVID. I don't know if you're familiar with that concept, but like places like Edison House, places like, I don't know if you've been to HK Brewing Company, like I work there all the time. I go to TF Brewing to work. Like, I feel like people, especially people who work from home, are really craving these like third spaces that, you know, coffee shop closes at what time? Like, where can I work in the late afternoon? Like, I'm not a morning person. I'm not out here working in the morning all the time. I want a place that I can go in the evening and work. Sometimes I work the best like later at night. So I feel like I'm forgetting your original question, but I feel like that's a trend that I'm seeing too, is like people wanting this third space, especially folks like us who are working remotely.
Totally.
But I forget your original question.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's exactly it too. And even when I was talking to George and Charlie on their episodes, I mean, that's what he called out specifically. He's like, oh yeah, we need so much more of a third space.
Yeah.
And it's so fun to see how those trends come to light and then come back. Like even, I mean, one common third space that you talked about is like coffee.
Yeah.
Coffee place. And like, that's been something that's been around for forever, but has been so proliferated over the past 10 years. But then on top of that, like there's different like things that have emerged from coffee being so popular. Like, I don't want to get into it, but like the first wave, second wave, third wave of all of that. And that's so fun to see that happening. And you see it happening a little bit. I mean, like, I don't think Kiln's necessarily like a great example, but I do think there needs to be more space for experiences, especially now that we find ourselves in this new world.
Yeah.
And I guess, so that's where you see it happening. But if you could be the Yelp fairy and wave your wand and put in the businesses that you think that we need or that you selfishly want, what would those look like?
I mean, selfishly, I want it to be easier for businesses to have a liquor license. Yeah. Like, I feel like not just for me, but I feel like it is made so hard for businesses to really get off the ground. And there's so many, like, even, I don't know if they would want me to call them out, but I will say it anyway. Like even HK, like they are primarily a kombucha brand, Hans Kombucha. But they opened up HK Brewing Co. And like to get their liquor license was so impossible, but they had to like open before they could get a liquor license. So like places that are primarily bars, like luckily they had kombucha to fall back on and they have some food there too. But like places that are primarily bars that need to like open up and get a staff before they even have their liquor license, like that's so stressful.
Yeah. And imagine doing all that. They're like, and they're like, we already gave out all the ones.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, does that happen? I don't know. But it is so hard.
If you're someone who has been denied after going through everything, please reach out. I mean, especially the friends I talk to that, I mean, bartend, host, serve, like people coming from out of town and they're like, oh, can I get your license? They're like, I'm 65. You're like, yeah, I know. But like, please just don't make it hard because it's annoying.
My mom loves it. My mom's like, oh, you need my ID? I'm like, Mom, it's legal. Like legally, they have to do this.
But like that, and then explaining like, oh, well, we're a bar, we're a restaurant. They're like, what do you mean? Like, it's just so difficult. And like the amount of, the more we can do to reduce friction on people that come to visit, the better we all
tourism here too. Like, and I'll see it in reviews too, where people are from out of town and they're like, I had the weakest cocktail here. Like, and they, you know, aren't from here and maybe are docking a star. And it's like, ugh, like we just want I want businesses to thrive here. And I really do feel like that holds a lot of businesses back, the liquor laws that we have.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great call out.
Yeah.
What else? So if you wave your wand, liquor is a lot easier to get.
More
else?
third spaces. I don't know. I feel like the direction we're heading in is really cool, and I'm really excited to see it. But like the experience-minded businesses is a lot of what we've already talked about, like
Totally.
experience-focused businesses. I see a lot of businesses hosting their own events or collaborating with other businesses to host events. Like I went to the coolest event the other day. It was Cache Valley put it on. Shout out to the L marketing team who put on this event because it was so freaking cool. It was the Cache Valley Cheese Showdown, and it was like 4 different chefs from all over Salt Lake used Cache Valley cheese to like make different things, and then the crowd rated their favorite things. Like they got to try 4 different things. Like people thinking outside of the box and doing cool things like that. Like that was so memorable for me, and I feel like a lot more businesses are doing that. Like HK, to go back to them, like they hosted like a plant and sip night. Science Cider does the same thing. Like they'll partner and do like a plant class and you get a cider as part of your ticket. Like I think it's so cool seeing businesses collaborating to get the community out and bring the community together for these really cool opportunities. And both businesses are benefiting from it. Like Yoga 6 does yoga with the sharks at the aquarium. Like there's just so many cool things that happen in Salt Lake. I can't keep up with all of them.
Yeah, it's like we were talking about earlier. It's like when you have, especially like 2 businesses, they both want to succeed. They're not like it's not like the aquarium and yoga are competing with each other.
Yeah.
But like if you reach out, be like, hey, I have this idea. They're like, hey, actually, that's not a bad idea either. Like it's that same thing of, ask people and you'll always be surprised how much willing people are to help.
Yep, exactly.
And I think that's another thing that echoes through that. Sort of community, those experiences being like, hey, like we can both win if we put our heads together. Let's get creative. Let's make something fun. And they do. Yeah. And like even, as another example, like Dan and Mike at Torrent, they started doing these like sunset rooftop rides.
Yes, exactly. And I've been dying to do one of them. I've missed like all of them that they posted. But
I've been trying to get them on.
Did they come here for it? Did they do them here?
No, I don't think they've done one here. When I lived in Hardware, they did one there.
Okay. Yes.
But they're actually, I don't know if you know, but they're opening up a coffee and smoothie place next door to Torrent called Temple.
Did it already open?
Yeah, it's open.
Yeah.
And so I reached out and was like, hey, I'd love to chat. They're like, we have so much going on.
Yeah.
Like texting later.
They're awesome. Oh. I love them. They're awesome.
I auditioned anyway.
Did you?
Yeah.
To be a spin instructor?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, sure. We can call it that. But like, so
Did you do it?
I didn't get the job.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
But no, it was because how did I get to know them first? Because I think I started going to Torrent and just started talking to them. I
love Torrent.
Oh yeah, it was my favorite. Like that was my pre-COVID like jam, and so got to know them really well. And then I moved into Hardware, and they lived at Hardware too. And then we got to know each other.
No way.
And then they posted on their Instagram like, "Hey, we're hiring instructors." I'm like, I'm like competent at this. Like I can do this.
It's
and like
hard.
And then automating, like I can automate my exercise, go there for free. And like I did like my quote audition, and it was a great try.
I don't know how. I literally will take a spin class. And I don't know how they are talking. Like spin is so hard.
Yeah.
I can't even breathe. And they're freaking talking and teaching a class. Like I don't know how people do it. So good for you.
They're giving me some like great thought for the day. And my only thought is like, don't die.
Like, how did you think of this? Like I can't even listen to you because I'm dying.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of great experiences, Torrent Cycle, like you get a cold cloth after, a cold towel that smells like peppermint. Like I love them.
Just grab a blanket, curl up on the floor.
Yeah. Oh my God. They're amazing.
So what else? So I guess like thinking about Yelp and food and the events and all the fun things you get to do, what else do you like about Salt Lake? What keeps you here and the experiences that you like to surround yourself with?
Yeah. I think part of my draw, or a lot of the draw to Utah, was it's such a unique place. Like I was just in Goblin Valley this weekend. Like that's 3 hours away. And it's literally like you're on Mars. Like what? And I cried the first time I went to Bryce Canyon. I was like, I've never seen anything like this. Like, this is so cool that this is 4 hours from me. Like, what? Where else do you live? Like, where? I really can't think of anything, maybe California, that has such a diverse landscape, but also it's like really close to Vegas. Like when I first moved here, I would drive to Vegas. I would never do that now. I'm going to pay for a flight. But like,
I literally just had this quick tangent.
Yes.
So my roommate, literally, he is on a plane. He's getting on a plane in 8 minutes.
Okay.
And we were in our backyard. We have a fire pit. And he's like, oh, I got to drive to Vegas tomorrow. I'm like, why?
No, take a flight.
Right. I was like, pull up my phone. I'm like, there's a flight for $130. It's an hour flight. He's
it's
like,
Frontier. It's going to suck, but just do it.
And he's like, wait, that's so smart. I'm like, yeah, don't drive. It's like, it's the same cost in gas. So anyway.
Literally though.
But yeah, Vegas is close.
Yes.
California
Denver.
is close. It's right in the middle of the West, which is, very biased, but like the best place to be. So you can go up to the Pacific Northwest. You can go to California. You can go to Vegas. You can go to Phoenix.
I've driven to Oregon. My sister lives in Phoenix. I've driven to Phoenix. I've driven to Denver. Like, I don't love to drive, but like, it's so accessible and so different. Like there's 5 national parks here. We are the only state with 5 national parks.
Yeah, we're the state with the 3rd most national parks in the country.
Oh, are we the 3rd? I thought we were the most. Embarrassing.
I think it's California, Alaska, then us.
Damn it. Okay, well, that's okay.
But we are the most accessible for them.
Mm-hmm. And the most exciting.
Yes.
But yeah, like where else? I don't know. It's like you can go skiing. I don't ski, but you can go skiing and then you can go down to southern Utah and go to Zion. Like there's nothing. It's so cool. So that was the big draw
definitely
to move here. And I love it. Like I have a bucket list that's like miles long of just places I want to go check out in Utah. I'm obsessed with Utah. And it's so funny because when I first moved here, people are like, why would you move to Utah? Like that is wild. Why would you do that? And now people are finding out that it's a hidden gem. So like, I don't want them to find out. I'm a transplant, so I can't say that. But I'm like, it sucks here. Don't come here.
We'll take the good.
Yeah.
If you have something to bring we did like an interview process.
Yeah. You have to apply like Edison House.
You like pastries and you like to bake and you want to start a pastry. Come on in.
Sure. We need more of that.
You want to start a new, I'm trying to think of something I would not. Well, anyway, if you're not bringing something to the table, exactly. then give your chair to someone else.
Exactly.
So to wrap up with 2 questions.
Sure.
Numero uno, if you could have someone on the podcast, who would it be?
On this podcast?
Yes.
Ooh. I meet so many cool people. Like as we've been talking, I've been like, I need to connect you with this person and this person. I think probably because I was talking about it earlier, but the guy, the owner of Libertango has just the coolest story, like coming from Brazil to Utah. Like that's a really cool story, but there are just so many of those here. Like so many stories like that I hear. Like, I think I said this on our call when we talked, we had an event with Blue, which is a boba place, and it's owned by 2 brothers who moved here from China and opened a boba shop. And they I think they have friends or family. I can't remember where, but they help them with their marketing, and the boba is so good. And there's just so many stories like that in Utah. And I'm excited that you are doing this because we need more stuff like this. And I love building community and bringing people together. So
yeah, just getting started.
Yeah.
And then second, if people want to find you or find Yelp, specific to Salt Lake, where can they find you?
Yeah. At Yelp Utah is the Instagram account. And that's usually I'm always on it. I'm like chronically online. It's actually really bad. That's why I was in Goblin Valley this weekend, to get out of service. But that's the best way to get a hold of me. Like I am always on. I always am available to answer questions. I'm always around to help businesses. Like I love taking content for businesses. I love sharing stories, hosting events. I mean, that's primarily what I do is host events, but at Yelp Utah is the best way to get a hold of me.
Deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're a business looking for some help on how to get things going a little bit better, if you want to access Corynn GPT on best places to go eat or date ideas, hit her up there. She might charge a small fee, but we'll let her get away with it because of her vast knowledge. But yeah, no, I mean, Utah is super grateful to have you here, Corynn.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm so excited for you to keep finding more of these people and hear their stories. And pass them along. Love to tell them too.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Salt Lake City Podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, review, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends. And we'll catch you next week. We'll see you there.